You know that feeling when you set a goal, you're all fired up, but then maybe a few weeks down the line, it's like you never even started.
Yeah.
Or maybe you're trying to build a new habit and it just feels sort of invisible. Like you're
Yeah.
putting in the effort, but there's nothing really there to show for it.
Absolutely. It's a common frustration, that gap between what we intend to do and actually doing it consistently. We often know what we want, but the day-to-day execution, that
Yeah.
can feel like pushing against a wall.
Well, today we're diving into a surprisingly effective way to bridge that gap. A strategy for making progress feel really tangible and, well, actually build some serious momentum.
Right.
We're going deep on habit tracking, looking at what makes it tick based on insights from Atomic Habits.
Yeah, we'll be exploring how this seemingly simple act of measurement can really profoundly influence our ability to stick with those good intentions.
So our mission today is to really get under the hood of habit tracking, how it works, why it's such a powerful tool, you know,
Yeah.
and how we can integrate it into our lives so it feels natural and supportive, not like just another chore on an already long list.
Exactly. It's about using the power of seeing our own progress to keep us motivated and, well, keep us on track.
Ever wonder why some people just seem to glide towards their goals?
Mm.
They maintain those habits almost effortlessly. Today, we're diving into a simple yet pretty potent strategy that might just be the missing piece for you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's kick off with a really compelling story about how just seeing what you're doing could be a total game changer. Have you come across the Trent Dursmith story?
I have, yes. His paperclip strategy is just a brilliant illustration of how visual measurement impacts habit formation. Really clear.
Right. So this was back in the early 90s. He is a new stockbroker working in a pretty quiet suburb, and his main job is making sales calls, cold calls mostly. Now, instead of just making calls and, hoping for the best, he sets up this really simple system. He gets 2 jars, puts them on his desk. At the start of each day, one's filled with 120 paper clips, the other one's empty.
And the crucial part was what happened after each call, wasn't it?
Precisely. Immediately after finishing a sales call, boom, he takes one paper clip from the full jar and moves it over to the empty one.
Simple as that.
Simple as that. He just kept going, call after call, until all 120 clips had made that journey across the desk.
And the results were, well, pretty remarkable. Within about 18 months, he was bringing in millions for his firm. By his mid-20s, he was earning a very, very significant income.
Yeah.
And it all seemed to stem from this straightforward act of visually tracking his main activity.
And here's what's really interesting.
Hmm.
It wasn't like he suddenly perfected his sales pitch or found some magic script.
Right.
It seemed to be this consistent visual representation of his effort that made the difference. And this idea, it isn't just for sales, right? The source mentions other clever examples.
Oh, yeah, like the woman using a hairpin to mark each page she wrote, or the man using marbles, moving them from one container to another for every set of push-ups he did.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
What really strikes me is the immediate sense of accomplishment these little tangible actions provide.
Exactly. You do the habit, and then you get this instant visual proof. It's a direct feedback loop. Very satisfying.
It's almost like a little dopamine hit every time you move that clip
Mm.
or shift the hairpin or
Mm.
hear the marble drop.
Hmm.
And when you think about it, this principle of visual measurement, it's actually everywhere, isn't it?
It really is.
Food journals where you see what you've eaten, workout logs showing your reps and sets over time.
Even those loyalty punch cards at the coffee shop, every stamp is a little visual reward.
Totally.
Yeah.
And who hasn't felt a bit of satisfaction watching a progress bar fill up when you're downloading something?
Or seeing the page numbers tick by in a book.
Exactly. They all tap into that fundamental human desire, that need to see progress.
Which leads us directly to the idea of a dedicated habit tracker.
Okay, so let's define that. In its simplest form, what exactly is a habit tracker?
Well, at its core, it's just a way to record whether you actually did a particular habit on a given day. The most basic version, just using a calendar. You mark off each day, you do the thing.
Like putting an X on the calendar if you meditated.
Exactly. Or if your goal is 3 workouts a week, you put a check mark on those days. Over time, that calendar becomes a visual record of your consistency.
It's like you're building a chain, link by link.
Yeah.
And it sounds like this isn't some brand new idea. The source points to Benjamin Franklin as a pretty early and famous adopter.
Oh, absolutely. Apparently, starting when he was just 20 years old, Franklin carried this little booklet around with him, and he meticulously tracked his adherence to 13 personal virtues.
13. Wow.
Yeah, things like lose no time, be always employed in something useful, or avoid trifling conversation. At the end of each day, he'd review his actions and mark down how he did.
That's some serious dedication to self-improvement through tracking.
It really is.
And then maybe on the more modern side, you have Jerry Seinfeld and his famous approach to writing jokes every single day.
Ah, yes, the classic don't break the chain philosophy. He talked about how his main goal wasn't necessarily to write a brilliant joke every day or even feel inspired.
Right.
The goal was simply to do the writing, then put a big X on that day on his wall calendar, and after a few days, you have a chain.
And the only job after that is.
Don't break the chain. Keep that streak going. The consistency itself becomes the focus.
Don't break the chain. It's so simple, but it really captures something powerful about consistency, doesn't it?
Mhm.
Whether it's sales calls, workouts, writing,
Mhm.
that focus on just showing up and keeping the streak alive seems incredibly effective.
It is, and what's so clever about habit tracking, according to the source, is that it taps into some really fundamental drivers of behavior change. It manages to make a behavior obvious, attractive, and satisfying all at the same time.
Okay, let's dig into that a bit.
Yeah.
How exactly does habit tracking make a behavior obvious?
Well, the act of recording your action creates a very clear visual cue for the next action. That growing line of X's on your calendar or the entries in your logbook, they become their own reminder.
So the streak itself cues the next behavior.
Precisely. Seeing your progress laid out visually nudges you, hey, time to do it again. And there's actual research supporting this. Studies consistently show that people who track their progress, whether it's for weight loss, quitting smoking, managing blood pressure, they tend to have significantly better outcomes.
Right. I think the source mentioned a study where people keeping a daily food log ended up losing twice as much weight.
That's the one. Twice as much. That's a huge difference just from the simple act of tracking.
Wow.
It brings this heightened awareness to what you're actually doing. Plus, habit tracking kind of acts like a truth serum. We often have a slightly, let's say, optimistic view of our own consistency.
Uh-huh. We tend to overestimate the good stuff.
Exactly. Measurement cuts through that. Looking at those paper clips, you know instantly if you put in the work or not. It's much harder to rationalize or forget when the evidence is right there. Makes you more honest with yourself.
Okay, that makes total sense for making it obvious. So how does tracking make a behavior attractive?
Well, the source argues that one of the most potent forms of motivation is simply seeing ourselves make progress.
Okay.
When we have concrete evidence that we're moving forward, even in small ways, it fuels our desire to keep going. Habit tracking provides that exact signal. It shows you you're succeeding, which is inherently attractive and motivating.
Like, hey, this is working.
Exactly. It can almost become addictive in a good way. Each little check mark, each entry reinforces your drive.
So it creates this positive feedback loop.
Precisely. And this becomes especially valuable on those tough days, when your willpower is low, you're feeling tired or unmotivated. It's easy to forget how far you've come.
Yeah, you just want to give up.
Right. But your habit tracker, it's right there. It's visual proof of your past effort. It reminds you of the investment you've made. And honestly, sometimes the desire not to break that beautiful streak of check marks is motivation enough. That blank space can be surprisingly powerful.
I can definitely see that. Nobody wants to break a winning streak. Okay, now let's talk about making the behavior satisfying. This feels crucial for sticking with something long-term.
Absolutely. And this is where tracking really shines. The act of tracking itself can become its own little reward.
Okay.
There's a tangible sense of satisfaction in ticking off that box, filling in the log, moving the paper clip. It feels good. And it feels good to watch the results accumulate over time, whether that's the balance in your investment portfolio growing or the word count on your manuscript increasing.
So the tracking provides immediate positive reinforcement for completing the habit.
Exactly. And when something feels good, feels satisfying, you're naturally more inclined to repeat it. It also does something subtle but important. It shifts your focus. Instead of being solely fixated on the ultimate outcome, maybe losing 20 pounds or writing the whole book, you become more invested in the process. You start taking pride in maintaining that consistent streak of healthy meals or daily writing sessions.
So it helps build the identity. Like, I'm the kind of person who doesn't miss workouts.
Precisely. You start identifying with the consistency itself, which is incredibly powerful for long-term change. You show up, you track it, you feel good about showing up.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so with all these clear benefits, making it obvious, attractive, satisfying, why do you think so many of us still resist tracking our habits? The source definitely acknowledges this resistance.
That's a really good question, because even knowing the advantages, tracking can feel like, well, like another job.
Yeah, like an extra burden.
Exactly. You're essentially adding a second habit, the habit of tracking on top of the habit you're actually trying to build. So if you're already finding it tough to, say, eat healthier, the idea of meticulously counting every calorie can just feel overwhelming.
Or if your workday is packed, stopping to log every single task feels like it's slowing you down, not helping.
Right. It's really tempting to think, oh, I'll just be more mindful, or I'll just try harder, without the formality of measurement.
I can definitely relate. I mean, how many journals have I started with great intentions only to have them gather dust after a week?
We've all been there.
And workout logs. They often seem to fizzle out after that first burst of enthusiasm. The source even mentions a personal attempt at a food log that apparently only lasted for one single meal.
Huh. Yes. So tracking isn't some magic fix, and maybe you don't need to track every single thing you do forever.
Right.
But even a temporary period of tracking, maybe just for a few weeks, can give you incredibly valuable insights into your actual pattern, things you might totally miss otherwise.
Okay, so if we accept that tracking, at least sometimes, is useful, how can we make it feel less like a chore and more like a genuinely helpful tool? Any tips?
Yeah, definitely. The first key is to automate it whenever you possibly can.
Okay.
Well, think about what might already be tracked passively. Your credit card statement probably tracks how much you spend on eating out or coffee.
Right.
Fitness trackers log your steps and sleep automatically. Your digital calendar tracks appointments, maybe even travel. The advice here is to just be more intentional about reviewing this data that's already being collected. Maybe set a weekly reminder to check your spending app or look at your step count trends.
That's smart. Leverage the data that's already there without adding manual work.
Exactly. Now, for the habits you do need to track manually, the suggestion is to focus. Don't try to track everything. Pick maybe one or two of your most important habits, those keystone habits, where consistency will have the biggest positive impact.
Quality over quantity for tracking.
Right. It's much better to consistently track one key habit than to sporadically track 10. And finally, a really crucial tip for making manual tracking stick is to record your measurement immediately after the habit occurs.
Okay. Don't wait until the end of the day.
Exactly. Strike while the iron's hot, as you said earlier. The completion of the habit becomes the trigger to log it. This is where habit stacking comes in really handy again.
Right. Linking a new habit to an existing one.
Precisely. You use the formula. After I current habit, I will track my habit. So for instance, after I finish my sales call, I will move one paperclip.
After I finish my set at the gym, I will write it in my log.
Or after I put my dinner plate in the dishwasher, I will quickly jot down what I ate in my food journal. Make it immediate and link it to something you already do.
That sounds really practical. It weaves the tracking into the routine itself, rather than making it a separate task to remember later. Even for someone who isn't naturally super detail-oriented, that approach seems manageable.
Absolutely. Focusing on just one key habit, using that immediate habit stacking method, even just for a few weeks, could be really illuminating. It gives you a much clearer, more honest picture of where your time and energy are actually going.
Okay. But let's be realistic. Life happens. Even with the best intentions and the best tracking system, streaks get broken sometimes, right?
Oh, inevitably. Interruptions are going to happen. Illness, emergencies, travel, just plain off days. Perfection isn't possible, and it's not even the goal.
So what's the best way to handle it when you do miss a day? How do you recover without letting it derail everything?
This is where the source introduces a really crucial rule. The never miss twice rule.
Never miss twice. Okay.
It's simple, but incredibly powerful. The idea is, if you happen to miss one day of your planned habit, you make it an absolute top priority to get back on track the very next day. No excuses.
So missing one workout is okay, it happens. But the key is not to let it become two missed workouts in a row.
Exactly. Or maybe you indulge in a big pizza dinner one night. Fine. But make sure your breakfast and lunch the next day are healthy. You prevent that single slip-up from snowballing.
It's about stopping that potential downward spiral before it starts.
Precisely. The first mistake rarely ruins you. It's the chain reaction, the spiral of repeated mistakes that follows, that does the real damage. Missing once is an exception. Missing twice is the beginning of a new, unwanted habit.
That's a really interesting distinction.
And the source suggests that this ability to rebound quickly, to get back on track immediately after a lapse, is actually a major differentiator between people who ultimately succeed with their habits and those who don't.
So it's less about never falling down and more about how quickly you get back up, building that resilience.
That's a great way to put it. And related to this, sometimes on those really tough days, you're super busy, feeling sick, totally unmotivated, the advice is to just show up, even if it's just for a minimal effort.
Like doing just one push-up instead of your full workout.
Exactly. Or writing just one sentence instead of a full page. Or meditating for just 1 minute. It might seem insignificant, but doing something, however small, keeps the habit alive. It reinforces your identity, and critically, it maintains the momentum of compounding gains.
Ah, the compounding idea, like interest in a bank account.
Precisely. The source quotes Charlie Munger. The first rule of compounding: never interrupt it unnecessarily. Every day you stick with it, even minimally, keeps that compounding process working for you. Missing a day is like taking a loss.
There's a financial analogy used too, right? About gains and losses.
Yeah, that a 50% gain followed by a 33% loss brings you right back to where you started. It highlights how crucial avoiding those losses, those missed days, really is for making long-term progress.
So even a bad workout or a short writing session is infinitely better than zero. It maintains the streak, reinforces the identity, and avoids that costly interruption to compounding. It fights against that all-or-nothing thinking.
Couldn't have said it better. But there's one more really important nuance to consider with habit tracking, a potential pitfall.
Okay, what's that?
It's making sure we're actually tracking the right thing.
Ah, measuring what matters. I could see how you could get fixated on a number that isn't actually capturing the real goal.
Exactly. The source uses a great restaurant example. Imagine a restaurant owner tracks daily revenue as the main indicator of the chef's performance.
Seems logical on the surface. More money equals better performance.
Right. But is it? Higher revenue doesn't necessarily mean customers are happier or the food is better. Maybe they're just running aggressive discounts, or maybe portion sizes shrunk. It tells you something, but not the whole story about quality or satisfaction.
So better metrics might be something like the number of plates coming back empty, or maybe tracking positive online reviews or tips.
Exactly. Things that more directly reflect customer satisfaction and food quality. The danger is that the metric you choose becomes the target, and you end up optimizing for that number, potentially at the expense of the original purpose.
We see this everywhere, don't we? Focusing on hours worked instead of actual productive output.
Or obsessing over hitting 10,000 steps, even if it means just pacing around your living room, rather than focusing on overall health and varied activity.
Or in education, teaching specifically to standardized tests instead of fostering deeper understanding and critical thinking.
It really sounds like Goodhart's law in action, doesn't it?
When a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure.
Yeah.
Precisely. Measurement is incredibly useful for guidance, for context, for feedback, but it shouldn't become the sole obsession. Every number, every metric is just one piece of feedback in a much larger system.
We tend to overvalue things we can easily count.
We do. We overvalue the quantifiable and often undervalue important things that are harder to measure, like creativity or well-being or genuine learning. Just because you can measure something easily doesn't automatically make it the most important thing. So it's crucial to keep habit tracking in its proper place. It's a tool, a helpful servant, but it shouldn't become the master dictating all your actions.
Well said. And sometimes, if the main number you're tracking starts to feel discouraging, maybe the scale isn't budging or your sales numbers dip, it can be really powerful to consciously shift your focus to other indicators of progress.
Like the non-scale victories people talk about with weight loss.
Exactly. Maybe the scale hasn't moved much, but you notice your clothes fit better, or your skin looks healthier, or you're waking up with more energy or sleeping more soundly.
Those are definitely real progress.
Absolutely. They are valid, often more motivating, signs of positive change. Sometimes you need to look beyond the primary metric and find other ways to measure and appreciate how far you've come.
That's a fantastic reminder. Look for the broader signs of progress.
Ultimately, whether you're tracking paper clips or X's on a calendar or noticing those non-scale victories, the core idea holds. Tracking provides clear evidence of progress, making your habits more obvious, attractive, and ultimately more satisfying.
Okay, so let's quickly recap the big takeaways. Habit tracking gives us that crucial visual proof of progress that fuels motivation, makes the process satisfying.
Right, and remember the key principles. Embrace the don't break the chain mindset for consistency,
And use the never miss twice rule to bounce back quickly from inevitable slip-ups.
but also be mindful. Be careful not to let the measurement itself become the goal, potentially overshadowing what you were originally trying to achieve. Measure what truly matters.
So a final thought for you, the listener, to mull over. Consider what seemingly small habit, if you tracked it consistently, could potentially lead to surprisingly significant results in your life.
And maybe just as importantly, what non-numerical signs of progress might actually be more meaningful indicators of your journey right now?
We definitely encourage you to experiment. Try out habit tracking in one area where you're looking for more consistency. See what happens, observe the impact.
Yeah, think about which parts of your life might benefit from this simple yet surprisingly powerful approach.